All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report Town Hall session. We're continuing this discussion. I see a lot of plea here from quite a number of you asking me to allow the audience to ask the questions. That's what we will do now. Starting with you, sir. Start with your name and your question or comment.
Thank you, Trevor. I think I'll direct my questions to Vivian. You have talked about intentional reasons as to why, the fertility rate is going down. You've talked about delayed childbearing. You also talked about people, especially women, are educated. Maybe what are some of the other reasons that make, this fertility rate go down? And maybe what are some of the measures that you've put in place to ensure that you counter these problems? The second question goes to the DG. I'd wish to know, health was devolved, it's no longer under the national government. Maybe has there made an impact to your statistics, the way you collect data, be it positive or a negative impact? Thank you.
All right, let's start with Vivian.
Thank you for the question, and it's true, you captured it well, that delayed childbearing, more education, women are staying longer in school, delayed marriage, but there's also the deliberate use of contraceptives, okay? And I don't know whether the DG had talked about it, but if you look at the results from our DHSs previously, the DHS of 2014, for example, use of contraceptive was at 54%. The previous one was at 39%. So you can see there's an increase in uptake of contraceptives. That, of course, then translates to lower fertility rates. Yes.
Are there any measures that you're trying to put across? Or is this a free-for-all, you decide what you want to do with your life?
No, as we had said earlier, KNBS does not do that. But we have government agencies that are actually working on issues of the population. For example, the National Council for Population and Development. They are keen on looking at issues of population, and therefore they champion issues of to do with the contraceptive use. Yeah. Okay. So there's a deliberate effort by government to work on that.
DG.
Thank you for the question on the fact that health services are devolved. And then the question is, how does it affect our data collection as a Bureau of Statistics? Yes, it affects how we are collecting data. One, we used to concentrate on reporting our statistics, particularly health data, at the national level, urban and rural, and then provinces. So we'll stop there. But with the devolution, a lot of statistics required at the county level, and so it has to be produced. So one thing that we are doing as a Bureau of Statistics is to ensure that whenever we are doing a survey, it has to provide for the estimation at the county level, so that we are able to produce what the counties can use. At the same time, it has also affected in another way, and of course, how it is affecting us, all of them are positive. Yeah, no negative. One is our current, the Statistics Act 2006 was revised in 2019. And one of the things that was lacking in it, because it was done in 2006, the current constitution came into play in 2010, and then devolution came in 2013. So there was disconnect between our act and the constitution. And so when it was amended in 2019, it was actually meant to revise and put together all those bits and pieces that are missing. One of them was to get connection between KNBS and the county government. Remember, it is provided, the statistics collection is provided for at the county level and at the national level. So statistics are concurrent function between the national government and the county government. And now we have to get a connection. The connection that has been provided for, which has been given as one of the mandates of the Bureau, increasing our mandates from 6 to 10, is that it provides for us working with the county government to help them in capacity building. And so in that manner, whenever the counties are having any statistical activities in nature, the Bureau is consulted to help. And we have worked with quite a number of counties. I think there are about 18 of them that have been approaching us in various ways to help them come up with their statistics. Remember, much as they have the function of statistics at that level, which they consume, and the Constitution is very clear. Whatever they are producing at that level is meant for their consumption. But whatever we are producing is meant for the national and the counties. And so it is not possible to develop another Bureau of Statistics in all the counties. That means we are in a better position to have all the functional areas of statistics here in the Bureau, which then can be used to support the counties. So we have a connection in the sense that our scope of doing surveys had to increase to the extent that we are now generating data for the counties. It has also provided us with the room to really help the counties get better in terms of their statistics.
Okay.
So there's that connection.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's come to you. Start with your name and question or comment.
My name is Kadhoni Mungai. One of my questions is, what is your projection on the trends of maternal and child health outcome following the COVID-19 pandemic? You know, is there a direct impact on the figures following instances such as reduced ANC visits and reduced postnatal visits, and also a decline in access to health care? My second question is, what challenges can you say have been faced in the implementation and the dissemination of the recommendations and policies of the 2014 survey?
All right.
Maybe you could do the second question again, please.
The second question is, what challenges can you say have been faced in the implementation and the dissemination of the 2014 survey recommendations and policies?
Maybe I can go at that. Now, I think the first thing that you've asked about is the projection. And as we have said it, we are just undertaking the DHS now, okay? The demographic health survey, demographic and health survey. So we will be getting the results as soon as the survey is over. So that you will have to wait so that we have the results then. And in terms of challenges in implementation, I don't think there is any that I'm aware of from our part as KNBS, okay? Because we are not the implementing agencies. We produce the statistics, other government agencies put in policies and implementation processes. So from our side, I don't think we have any challenge. We disseminated the DHS and therefore it's being used by government. And I think just following up on what the gentleman had said, I think it's just to have it clear that in Kenya, we do not advocate for contraceptive use so that we reduce the population. We are doing it so that we have healthy mothers and children. Okay? Yeah, I think I just needed to clarify that. I don't know if I've been able to respond to your questions adequately.
Okay.
Maybe.
About the projection, like, what's your projection?
I think for the projection it's a bit difficult to mention now, because it is now that the survey is running. If that question can come once we have done the survey and we are seeing the result, it will be easier to respond.
Yeah.
But you see, right now it is not possible because ours is data driven. We will not be able to base it on some perception. On your second question about the challenges that might have arisen in implementing the policies of 2014 DHS, one thing that is for sure, that remember when we had the COVID-19 situation in the country, a lot of resources have been diverted to that, so that we first of all deal with our health issues at that level of the COVID pandemic, and then you'd expect that in most of the government areas there were less resources to to implement some of the activities and, of course, therefore the policies and the strategies that have been put in place. That was expected because of shifting of resources to another area. And, of course, with that restriction of movement, then again, any policies that required some interaction, then that was very much limited. And so we are just hoping that the current situation that we are noting again would go down so that we are now left to operate as we used to be before.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think.
Yeah, you want to jump in, Michelle?
Maybe she is wondering, because we have been receiving the information, why we cannot use the preliminary, whatever we have already received. But I think it's good for you to understand that there is what we call waiting. It's not when you sample, there are some households that will be representing more households than the others. So if we give you what we are finding at this moment, it is going to probably be very different at the end of the day when the waiting is done. So I know you are wondering, we have been receiving data, and then why can't we just project using that? It's a bit sensitive for us to do that, because we could do that, and then when the analysis is done, then things turns out to be very different, and we are on a national TV. Then we say that which one is true, what you said sometimes back, or now whatever you are saying after the analysis. So I think you have just to bear with us, that we wait until the whole process is done for us to give something that is a bit more reflective.
All right. Pass the microphone to her, please, and then start with your name and question or comment.
I'm Wehaki Karanja from Faniki Africa, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Now, looking at macroeconomics, this is basically the performance, structure, and behavior and decision-making of an economy. Now, looking at the global tide and diplomatic interests, we have the most recent addition to the EAC community, that is DRC Congo, coming in with a cumulative population of 300 million across the 7 partner states of the bloc. Now, looking at that figure of 300 million, 21% of those live in urban populations, and the current GDP is standing at $240 billion. Thank you so much, Mr. Mushiri and the DG for highlighting on the GDP. But my question to the panel would be, how flexible is KNBS to accommodate the EAC bloc? This is looking at diplomatic interests of the bloc through collaboration with governments and similar institutions such as KNBS in other partner states. Thank you.
All right. It's a very technical question, but let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, okay. Maybe I can say something, and I know my colleagues would also be able to add something. But when the DRC comes in, it is just increasing. It is increasing the population. It is increasing the economic activities into the fold. But as a Bureau of Statistics, our interest is actually statistics, and so the key thing that we are doing is to harmonize how statistics is calculated across all the East African community states. And this is a process that has been going even before the coming in of the DRC. Yeah, so it is, we'll continue ensuring that our statistics are actually harmonized. Harmonized in the sense that when we are looking at the concepts, they are the same. When we're talking about terminologies, they are the same. When we are talking of how calculations are done for various types of statistics, they are the same. That is when we'll be able to compare the statistics that we are producing as Kenya, and you are able to compare it with Uganda, with DRC, with Burundi, and all that. And that is really one of the things that we are currently doing. Yeah.
All right.
Maybe I will also go at that. In terms of just following up on what the DG has said, actually KNBS works with the other EAC countries to harmonize the information that we collect and how we collect it. For example, I work in the consumer price indices, and we have a HCPI, harmonized CPI for the EAC region. We have a harmonized CPI for the COMESA region. And going forward, we are planning on, even as we undertake the household budget survey, to do a common survey for the region. So we're actually working as partner states. Yes.
Is there any other burning question or comment before we take closing remarks? Mushiri, I'll come to you on the imports and exports. So what do we export, what do we import, to which countries, and how are we looking at it?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Our main exports are basically horticultural products, and therefore we are talking of cut flour, we are talking of vegetables, we are talking of fruits. That's one of our main exports. And largely it's seen to be going to Europe because that's one of our best markets. And then in terms of imports, we have oil, we have machinery, and this is basically coming from the Middle East when you're looking at the oil. And then when you're looking at machinery, we are talking of Asia. This is Japan, China, India. That's where most of our imports are coming. However, there are some times when we have there is an year that we imported a number of Boeing 787, and therefore if you look at that year, we had a lot of imports of machinery from the US. So we also have other places like Europe, because we import a lot of transport equipment and these other machinery. Okay. But in terms of the trends, of course, our trade balance is widening, meaning that we are importing more than we are exporting, and then our terms of trade are not in our favor, meaning that the prices for our exports are actually not growing as fast as the prices for the imports. So we are paying more for the same imports that we imported, but our exports are becoming cheaper to the rest of the world. Okay. So we can basically say that it's not in favor of our country.
All right. And Vivian, there's a question for you in terms of unemployment. How is that looking like?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Trevor. Now, on unemployment, the best source for unemployment data is a labor force survey. Now, in Kenya, the last labor force survey that we undertook was way back in 1998-99. However, as a stopgap measure, what KNBS does is that whenever we have a survey being undertaken, we always throw in some questions that can help us to measure unemployment. And we don't necessarily just want to measure unemployment, we want to measure participation in the labor market. And so currently we have a survey that we undertake every quarter, and therefore we have indicators of unemployment, employment, participation rate, employment to population ratio every quarter since 2019. Okay. And that is the continuous household survey. Yes, and so just to give highlights, the last release that we had was in Q3 of 2021, where our unemployment rate stood at 10.6%. And if we use the strict unemployment rate was at 5.6%.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Before I give you closing remarks, let me read some of the feedback that's coming through here so that I give you a chance to also give your closing remarks, starting from Mushiri. If there's one thing you want whoever is watching today to hear, what would it be? But first, Wanja Douglas says the biggest challenge the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics faces today is to package all its surveys findings in a way that Kenyans understand them. The reports seem to follow a definite template and only meant for researchers and policy makers. We'll allow DG to respond to that in his closing remarks. Let's see here. Another one, Nation J. Adero says they're reducing fertility. Do we risk going below the 2.1 children per woman replacement value as to face cultural extinction anytime soon? It's a long call, but yeah, we'll see what they say. Dishu Judy says, to the national accounts, when will Kenya include natural resources like forests in the national economic books? We have only captured the value of timber traded, but not the value of standing forests. All right, let's see if there's one more here. If we can give closing remarks, we'll start with Mushiri. Yes. Felix Luta says, in as much as we have national GDP, does KNBS do the same at county level? So those are general remarks coming from the public. Let's start from you, Mushiri. If there's one thing you want someone to hear from you this evening, what would that be? And I know you can only speak about your department, macroeconomic statistics.
Can I respond to the questions first? Okay, let me start with whether we are measuring the contribution at the county level. Yes, we do. In fact, this year when we were releasing the economic survey in May. We had the publication on economic survey, but alongside that we also had what we call the gross county product, which is actually a show. It shows how much each county is contributing to the national cake, and that is the GDP. This was the second publication. The first publication was done in 2019 in February, but from this year we'll be doing it on an annual basis. So that one ran up to 2020, but then we'll do another one for the counties in somewhere in August, September. We'll be releasing another covering up to the period 2021. Then from there is a mention of whether we are including the natural resources in our computation of our GDP. He is right by mentioning that what we are looking at is what has been harvested, like the trees that have been harvested, but it is also true that we cover a part of it because the natural growth of either fish in the lake or trees in a forest, that is not considered to be an economic activity. It only becomes an economic activity when you go and fell the trees. However, if you have somebody who is doing forestry, that they are cultivating, because an economic activity is defined as a physical process that is under the control of an economic unit, management. So if it's a fish that is growing in the lake, it's not being controlled by anybody. That is not an economic activity, but when you harvest, then it becomes an economic activity. And then there are measures that we don't do within the central framework of national accounts. We have the best practice is if you want to see what the natural resources are contributing, we do what we call a satellite account. At the moment we are not doing, but we plan to be doing that. In fact, we already have a report on forestry, but that is done intermittently. It's not done on an annual basis, but we have reports on natural resources, not all of them, but we have for some. Then in terms of the template, that seems to be a standard template for, I think it's also good for Kenyans to understand that we are doing official statistics. So we mostly do it according to the international standards, and therefore we are likely to do it in a certain template. But however, we have a lot of information that we provide to users depending on their need. If that information we share, then we also have platforms within our website where somebody is able to upload data in the format they want. So we have looked at the different kind of audience that we have, and we have suitable products for them. So and if somebody needs a specific type of data, we provide as long as it's within our mandate to do that. So in terms of the parting shot, I think one thing is that as much as we say that we don't feel the growth, I'm happy about somebody who is really contributing to the economy. And I think at times it's good for us to ask ourselves, what am I doing for my country, rather than looking at what the country is doing for you. I know most of us will say, yes, we have leaders, but I know they also, if you visit most of the towns, especially the rural, you'll find very many. And unfortunately, it's us men who are actually spending most of the time not doing anything. I think before we ask whether the economy is growing or not, can we also make ourselves to be productive? Because the economy is not growing, probably because some of us are not taking their rightful position in terms of growing the economy.
All right. Yes. Vivian, closing remarks?
My closing remarks, I'll begin by the question that somebody asked about replacement level, which is 2.1. But I think we are not there as Kenya. The last facility TFR we had was 2014 was 3.9. which is still way above the replacement, which is 2.1. Then the other thing is, I think there's a question that has been sent to me on how KNBS is partnering with the CSOs, that is civil society organizations. And yes, we are working with the civil society organizations to be able to take advantage of the data that they have, and to also support them to be able to generate data that can help us to report on areas such as the Sustainable Development Goals, where we have data gaps and we do not have official statistics. So we are working with the civil society organizations to be able to use citizen-generated data to report for, like SDGs. I think the parting shots that I would have is that I work in on a monthly basis, we release the CPI, that is the Consumer Price Indices. And I've heard Kenyans talking about high levels of inflation, skyrocketing prices, and some of them tend to think that we are not giving the information as they expect us to do. What I'd like to just inform the audience is that KNBS has a team that collects prices on a monthly basis from 50 zones, data collection zones. And these zones range from the low income to the high income. We have 16 in Nairobi, and we have 34 across the regions, including Northeastern and the coast. So what I'd like to say is that what we do is that we collect prices for a common basket of items as consumed by households.
Yeah.
And our CPI does not include capital goods, for example. So when we talk about change in CPI, we are looking at movement, a relative movement in the prices of items over a one-year period. If I'm talking about, for example, May, then I'm comparing the prices that we had in May 2022 with the prices that we had in May 2021. Okay? Yeah, so that at least people understand what we do.
All right.
And then the other thing is the other parting shot is just to encourage Kenyans to support KNBS when we come to your doorsteps to ask for information. It is just good that you welcome us so that we're able to inform policy.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, DG, closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Trevor, for the chance. First, I would want to respond to the question on the complicated nature of statistics that we produce. Really, they are numbers. And actually, as we are meant to deal with numbers, it's a question of understanding the numbers. But in a forum like this, when we are given a chance, we are able to explain how those numbers come about, which I think Kenyans have noted. But the next thing is, if by any chance something is not clear, kindly Kenyans reach us for explanation. Because then we'll be able to, we are in a position to make you understand the numbers, because it is a long process getting statistics out. In any kind of statistics, it's a long process. For example, what my colleague Mushiri deals with, for him to come up with a GDP, that single number, he has used more than 1,200 sheets. The spreadsheet, for him to come up with that single number. And it is from all sources of data. And we are using the international standards. And so, you know, when we get the reaction that, no, that is not correct, the question will be, where have you gotten that correct one from? And is it based on the facts? You know, ours is fully data-driven. And so we'd be very happy if Kenyans continue engaging us for more explanation. The next thing that we are planning to do is to try and break down our big reports that we are giving so that we deal with topical issues to make Kenyans understand better what we are producing. I know it is a big task for us to do because our numbers are not large in terms of capacity, but we would attempt to ensure that we make Kenyans understand our numbers better by breaking them down in a manner that is easier to understand. Now, my last point is that beyond production of the statistics, we do dissemination in various ways. Our website has a lot of information that I'm sure Kenyans have not exhausted, including the data. Any survey, any report that we produce, we are able to upload the data that has been used to produce those such a report in our website, and there's there's a portal called Canada. For those who would want to do further researches, please, Canada is there for you to utilize the information that is there. For any statistics that we are producing, if you're not able to readily get it, kindly write to us or call us, engage us so that we are able to share with you what is available. Otherwise, my appeal to Kenyans is to really get your support. And the kind of support that we are asking for is, one, to be open to us and give us the kind of information that we are asking for, because that's why we are able to generate statistics. Two is to ensure that whenever you are giving us any information, please make sure that it is accurate enough. That's when we are also able to produce accurate statistics.
All right.
Otherwise, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for making time this evening. McDonald Obudo, Director General, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, Benjamin Mushiri, Senior Manager, Macroeconomic Statistics, KNBS, and Vivian Nyarunda, Senior Manager, Production Statistics, KNBS. Thank you so much for making time, and everybody else for participating, plus everybody else who sent in their views and comments on Twitter. We'll leave it there for now. My name is Trevor Ombija. It's always a pleasure having you with us. Good night for now.